Hi folks. In this video, we will try to create a GKE cluster on the GCP itself. In the previous two scenarios, we have already installed the GKE cluster in Azure and GKE cluster in AWS, and we have made it as a part of the fleet. And we can already see here. If you see here, click on all fleets, and then if you click the fleet name here, you will see that there are two projects which are already running. One is, AWS cluster, the Azure cluster in, oh, I'm extremely sorry, the GK cluster on Azure and GK cluster on Amazon. And we have already seen how to log into this and how to access these clusters and, both. Now, without wasting much time, let's quickly jump into the third scenario, which is, installing the GKE on uh, Google itself. There is slight, changes here in the sense, in the Terraform examples, if you go to Anthos samples, you don't find any GKE example as such because it's there. It's like, you can just go ahead and create GKE and register there. So for that, what we have, what I have done is you can always go back and search for GKE example where you will find for this repository. Here, this is a popular repository which is again maintained by Google and produced by Google. That's the beauty of Google, they are so tightly coupled with Terraform and all their infrastructure templates, everything with various examples is already available in the GitHub repo. All you need to do is just find the relevant stuff which is, required according to your environment. So you can see here a couple of examples. I think the one which I have choose, it's been long time since I have created, cloned from here and placed in my repo. I think the one which I have done, if I am not wrong, might be the regional cluster. If you click on the examples here, you will find a lot of examples. I think it should be simple regional or simple regional beta, any one of this, I think, if I'm not wrong. I think this could be the one. It's a simple GKE cluster, and then outputs, client token, and then variables. Yeah, I think this is the one which I have cloned in my repository. So that is what is being here in my repository. So now if I go back to my repository, sorry, this one. So there are a couple of tabs, just ignore. So if you click on this GCP repository, yeah. So if you see, this is my Terraform, TF where I have mentioned the project name, cluster name, my VPC where this GCP, the GKE project has to create within a GCP, the corresponding subnet name, region name, and the corresponding availability zones, IP range, and the IP range service range, everything. And then in the variable section, couple of variables, where like project ID, and a network, whatever we have mentioned in the TFR section, the same, the variable definition here, and then the Terraform provider version, since it is for Google and the Kubernetes corresponding versions definitions are mentioned here. And in the main section, straightforward, we're just creating, taking the provider, and straight away we are creating a network and then subnetwork, and then we are referring the client config, which is reference to used for this Kubernetes cluster. This is the module directly, which it is creating with the help of as a built-in module actually. That's what I think, if you go here, that is what, it is being referenced. So in the beginning of this repository, if you go to README, I think they have given a clear explanation about these modules. So all the examples are surrounded with this built-in module itself. So, yeah, let's go back to our example. That's it. Then it is creating a cluster and then all these, node pools, everything. Now, here is the interesting portion. So, this is the place where you are telling your cluster to register itself to Fleet. That's it. This is the only thing you have to do it, and then it outputs the config file, endpoint, all those things. It's a simple, uh, Terraform definition without, any complexity. That's all. Now let's, without wasting the time, let's go back. Now here I am in uh, GCP. There you go. Now all you need to do run this is same, which is gcloud config list. Ensure that you are in same and gcloud auth. Since I'm in the same session, I'm continuing, so I'm not doing any gcloud auth again explicitly. So let me quickly do Terraform init. So yeah, now let's do Terraform init. That could take a couple of seconds. There you go. Now let's do Terraform plan. GKE cluster should be straightforward. I'm not given any much customization. There you go. This is the Terraform plan. So you can see here it's creating the VPC network, subnet, and this is the place where it is getting registered to fleet. This is the place, and then the primary cluster definitions with additional configuration, node pool name, and all those things. And then this is the node pool definition as such, and then the couple of service accounts, what and all it is required, and everything it's there. So yeah, there you go. Now let's do Terraform apply. I mean, in general, if you need to learn how to create a GKE cluster on Google, let me quickly show. By the time it creates, right, I'll show you here. So GKE Enterprise. If you click here, if you come down, set up GKE Enterprise on Google Cloud. So you can enable the API, which is an Anthos API, and then you know what? Let's go to uh, yeah, create a cluster. Yeah, if you go here, I think it gives you, with enabling the fleet itself. This is just a command line. And if you want to do it via console as well, you can, via local shell as well, you can. There are multiple options. So it's straightforwarding, I mean, if you see here, again, they are referencing, this code. I think it's just in another repository maintained by Google. So if you go here, there you go. It's a repository which is maintained by the Google. So that's typically for your Anthos explanation with complete service architecture, everything they have done. So what you can do, uh, if you go to the definitions here, I think they have given everything, including all the explanations and everything. And this is for your Kubernetes manifest for typical web application and all. So that's what it's mentioned here for the application deployment. But for creation of Kubernetes as such, I think I have already shown the repositories. But if you want to do it by command line, I think without giving any further options and the straightforward command where you can mention the project ID and the region and enable fleet. This is directly to if this is the first cluster which is registering as a part of the fleet, this command alone is sufficient to enable this project to fleet. And then couple of explanation how to run this inside a fleet and all. I think they have given a beautiful explanation with example, which you can always go back and see. So now Terraform is running. Now you can go to since it is GKE itself, just click on the cluster, which are it in under just if you click on the cluster and in Kubernetes engine, this displays all which is part of the fleet or the the clusters which are not part of the fleet as well. So you need to be very careful if you want to choose the clusters which are part of the fleet. Of course, inside, I mean, against the cluster name, always it will show. But I always suggest, go to all fleets, click on this, and then list the project, and then you click on inside the details. That will give you much more details than the individuals. Because these tabs are generic. Earlier, it used to be a separate tab called Anthos. Now, since Google has subsequently making everything under one single list, so they are no more using the word Anthos and all. It's all about GKE Enterprise. So that's the thing. Now it's already creating. So let's give another minute or two. I think. So that should create a cluster. So if all goes well, and if this cluster is part of the fleet, that completes our scenario one with respect to Anthos, which is which basically we explained in our architecture explanation, that the first use case of Anthos where you will be able to launch your GKE cluster in Google itself, and then your Azure, and then your Amazon, all you can make as a part of one fleet, and then do all the stuffs in a single control plane. Of course, this is just a beginning. You can do a lot of wonderful things with that. The fleet is very, very powerful. There is a concept of the fleet is much more in depth, where they're kind of there is a kind of stuffs like we mention as sameness. When you say sameness, that means with all the clusters which are part of the fleet, there should be something which should make these things in a common. Like for example, the namespace or a service within the namespace should be same. Something like that. There are a couple of scenarios where we can test these fleets in detail, which definitely I'm going to cover in upcoming sessions. So let's try to first finish all the installation methods for all three, and then visualize everything in single control plane, and then we'll go back to the scenario 2 in the next videos, where we will try to create GKE in Google itself, and then AWS in Azure, the AKS in the Azure itself, not the GKE, AKS cluster, which is the native Kubernetes cluster of Azure, and then similarly EKS in Amazon itself. And then what we will do is the existing GKE cluster, whatever we created, we will make as a part of the fleet, and then we will attach the AKS cluster and the EKS cluster into the common fleet, and then we will try to control the entire stuff. That's the scenario two. So I'm quite excited to show all those things. I hope even you folks are as well. Now, if you see, the cluster creation is completed, and then the node pool is creation is also completed. That means under the cluster section, I should be able to see the cluster name. Let me quickly see. There you go. And in fact, it's already registered to fleet as well. I think, yeah, there you go. The installation is successful. Now, this is the beauty. Now, if you see three different cloud clusters, everything is under one common fleet. Now, let's quickly go back and try to connect to this cluster. So this is the way where we can get the credentials. Now that I have fetched the credentials, now kubectl config current context, so that will show you the cluster context. Now you do kubectl get nodes, uh, you know it will show you the number of nodes which are running. Now if you do kubectl get ns, so since this is managed by Google itself, you need not to have a GKE connect, unlike we saw in Azure and AWS, environments which are created. I mean, GKE created on the Azure and AWS. So now let's try to quickly deploy one sample workload. So let's go back to the workload tab, and here, let's try to deploy one sample application. So the same Nginx. So now here it is GCP NJNX deployment. Now let's try to create this in a namespace called test, and here there you go. Since now this is all in one fleet, earlier we had these two options which are like, now if you see, these are external clusters because you are creating a GKE in two different environments, and here in this case it is like the GKE itself. Now I'm selecting this, and if you see, this is the Nginx latest, and then I'm deploying it. This shouldn't take more than couple of seconds. So I think that should be faster. So let me, I think if you go and see here, kubectl get ns, you should have already have test. There you go. Now kubectl get all hyphen in test hyphen o wide. You should be able to see the deployment parts along with the replica sets, everything. There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much, friends. This is amazing. Like we are able to, just let me quickly try to summarize. What we did is we did try to create a fleet, and then we did, try to create GKE cluster in Azure, GKE cluster in AWS, and GKE cluster in GCP itself, and we made everything as a part of the single fleet, and we were able to deploy the workloads for all three clusters in a single control plane. This is just a simple beginning of the Anthos usage. It's much more powerful, as I said, but it's good that we are able to see this and we are able to successfully install. Thank you so much, folks. I'll see you in the next videos.